So, Bilkash, what's the one word you would use to describe your feelings today?
If I can allow three, confident and good.
We'll take the "and" as a crucial word there. A lot of Eurosceptics and Leave voters are a little bit worried that this will never actually happen, and that even if it does happen, it will be Brexit in name only. Do you share their concerns?
Well, look, I wasn't that keen on the transition period, but it's quite clear that business absolutely wanted it and insisted on it, and business is part of our community. So the bottom line is that it's realistic to accept the fact there is now going to be a transitional period. There's no chance of it there not being. So let's look at the realities. The truth is that the best part of the whole thing is that we leave the EU after 30-odd years of campaigning on this. I must say I'm delighted. On the 29th of March 2019. Now, what does that mean? It means, in a nutshell, we regain our right to make our own laws and not have them made in the Council of Ministers behind closed doors without without any voting records to speak of, and no transcript of the decisions and why they were made. And that's the key issue, because everything else, the whole of this democracy, that is the key issue. If you get back the right to govern yourself in line with the wishes of the voters in general elections, then you can sort out your economic options, you can sort out your justice, home affairs, all the things that everything else depends on democracy.
But there are a lot of people, and we've had Peter Foster from The Telegraph, the Europe editor, who's been covering this very, very, very close, probably as closely as you for all these years as well, Sibyl. And there is an argument. He says that there are many people who voted Leave will be very disappointed when things are remarkably similar, not just in the transition period, but after the transition period, where, yes, we have a right to make our own laws, yes, we have sovereignty and all of that, and the things that are certainly absolutely crucial to my vote. But actually, we've got such alignment, we're going to effectively have the same customs arrangements, whether or not we get a free trade deal out there, that actually things are going to be remarkably similar. There'll probably be an awful lot of more free movement, so the immigration issue may not be resolved entirely, in which case a lot of Leave voters may be as disappointed as Remain voters.
No, I don't take that view at all. The fact is that under the withdrawal bill and our leaving, which I have to admit is now effectively going to be comprehensive after the 30th of December 2020, the fact is that we will then be able to make our own agricultural legislation, we'll be able to make our own immigration legislation, we'll have our own bills in our own parliament, properly debated, with amendments and with the ability to be able to make up our own minds about these. And remember, Project Fear told us it was going to be Armageddon. In fact, exports are up 11% and unemployment is at 4.5%. No wonder in today's Daily Express you have a poll which shows that there is the most extraordinary degree of acceptance. 7 in 10, 68% think that those who voted against Brexit should respect the will of the majority. 65% do not want a referendum. That was a poll done by Comrades with, I think it was 2,000 people. It's a very big poll indeed. I think there's every reason to believe that we are moving absolutely in the right direction, and bear in mind that in the future we're going to be able to make, under the arrangements as we speak, international trade agreements and ratify and sign them, which we may not implement them until after the transition period is over, but we will actually be able to make them and get on with it straight away the moment that is over. And 90% of all global improvement in trade is outside the EU, according to the IMF. So it's a very positive picture, because it's from the trading, exports, and our ability to trade across the world with the massive opportunities in America and all over the Commonwealth and evolving countries, and also trading in the EU, that we're able to draw in the money to enable us to pay for public services, because that's what people are worried about. And I think that their worries are have been over-exaggerated by the Project Fear people.
Well, there's no question at all. I think it's a simple matter of objective truth that the Project Fear predictions from the George Osborne's then Treasury were completely outlandish, and indeed from many of the other international organisations who claim to be experts in this field.
Yes.
But there are still a lot of concerns about things like the Irish border. Now, look, I'm of the view that Northern Ireland already has a lot of different legal arrangements from the rest of the United Kingdom. It does operate as almost it has separate laws on many different issues. It had on gay marriage, on abortion. A lot of those were sort of so-called moral issues, often religiously based rather than issues of, say, trade. But there are concerns about this return of some version or whatever it is of a hard border with the Republic of Ireland, whether or not we effectively have a border in the Irish Sea, which effectively means the end of the breakup of the United Kingdom. Do you not share any of those concerns?
Well, I had only 2 days ago. I had a very important, useful meeting with the most senior parliamentarians from the southern Ireland, from Ireland itself, in the south, and there were one or two people who were more sceptical, but the balance of opinion was very positive. They don't want a hard border. We don't want a hard border, and so it said, nor does the EU. So for practical purposes, they took a pretty upbeat view about the fact that we would arrive at a negotiated settlement. I was very impressed by their attitude.
But a lot of this will involve an awful lot of similarities between what goes on in Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, and unless there is a big border with along the Irish Sea, effectively in the middle of the Irish Sea, that there are going to have to be. I suppose you could say, well, we're going to have passport checks and the like, and customs checks between Northern Ireland and the mainland Britain. But I've got to be honest with you, I've got on a flight to Ireland. I'm expected to show my passport at the gate anyway.
Well, as a matter of fact, I think you'll find that things will carry on under the common travel area system. There is not going to be the kind of really serious dangers that some of the alarmists are generating. And there's a chap called Lars Carlson, who's a great expert on border arrangements. He says it isn't a real problem. Bertie Ahern, the former Prime Minister of Ireland, said, look, we just turn a blind eye to some of the smaller stuff. The most important thing, and the Prime Minister is 100% right, absolutely no way can or will we allow the EU to tell us what kind of constitutional territorial arrangements we have between Northern Ireland and ourselves. We have a United Kingdom, Northern Ireland's part of it, full stop.
OK, just finally, Sybil, with 1 year to go, people like you and me sort of raring to go, desperate for it to happen. I think I'm more in the view that I would rather not have a transition period. And I'm certainly rather unhappy about things like huge lump sums being paid to the EU. And I think a lot of Leave voters are. But we have become, some would say, maybe it's just been more open, a divided country on this particular issue. I have to say the abuse on social media, the divisions between parties and within parties, and we've seen within households, within homes, Relate Counselling have admitted that Brexit is one of the issues that comes up in some of their marital disputes between couples. Are you saddened that such an issue, I mean, something that I would celebrate as a wonderful democratic expression of a viewpoint by the British people, should have turned into something that has become so bitter? And are you hopeful that we will put all this behind us and unite as a country and move forward?
Well, yes. And actually, it's not surprising that people have concerns when you're dealing with something as big as who governs you. And also because most people have grown up with the idea that we're in the European Union. So there is a real question over the issue of getting used to it. But the reality is that the vote was decisive. And in addition to that, remember that people fought and died for our democratic freedoms. We must always come back to the fact you cannot make laws, you can't run your economy or your defense or intelligence system, you cannot have security if the laws are made by the majority vote of other countries over you. You need your self-government through your own representatives in your own parliament, which is your parliament, to be able to make those decisions. If you get that right, and that's what Brexit does, we then actually run our own affairs. That is absolutely fundamental. It's the democratic question from which everything else depends.